be discussing the state of democracy around the world. It's the first in our series of Decoder Dialogues, and it's entitled, Is Democracy Doomed? Now, we're delighted to have with us a leading democracy advocate, someone who is committed to defending and strengthening democratic institutions.
Was one of the things that I'm most passionate about is trying to encourage and amplify young people's voices, but also to encourage them to participate in democracy. So it's so important that young people have a voice in shaping that. And that's why I set up My Life, My Say, which is all about trying to empower young people to participate in democracy. But the problem is, obviously, no one's ever been educated about how, local government works, how, national parliament works, who has power, who doesn't have power. We always say, young people, of course, care about the issues that affect them. Of course, they care about whether they have a decent roof over their shoulders. Of course, they care about whether they have a job that pays them basic respect or dignity. The problem is whether they see traditional forms of politics or democracy as a way or as a vehicle to affect the changes, issues that they care about.
And we looked at a poll of over 1,000 Belgian citizens made by the RTBF, which is a Belgian television channel. And there were some pretty shocking results, such as that fewer than 20% of Belgians are happy with the current system of democracy. And so the current government that we have now in Belgium has 7 parties, and it took 16 months to form. But what is interesting and more optimistic is that the populist parties in Western Europe haven't been so successful.
For me, the situation of democracy in Romania is very interesting. We've had quite a path since 1989, when we got our freedom back from the communists. It's a fairly young democracy compared to states such as France, UK, USA. The prime minister actually has the most power in Romania, while the president only signs off laws promulgated by the parliament. We have had issues with corruption since 1989. One in 4 people have been asked to pay a bribe in the last year. According to Freedom House, Transparency and Trading Economics, democracy in Romania has improved over the past few years. We are on the right track, and with the right leaders and with the right ambitions, we can reach our full potential.
Voters in the presidential election select electors in their states, and each state has a varied number of electors. And most states have a winner-takes-all system, which means that whoever receives the majority of electoral votes in a state, all of those votes turn towards a particular presidential candidate. Over 11% of Americans do not have ID, so anyone who falls within that percentage is unable to vote for that reason. The attack on January 6th sort of raised some questions whether members of the Republican Party want to remain loyal to democracy and remain loyal to the Constitution. Part of the reason we do have such low voter turnout in our country is because that people aren't aware of the simplicity and the ease by which voting happens.
Is democracy just too cumbersome and too unwieldy?
It could be easier, but how do you choose who's in power then?
When you choose only one leader on only one group to make decisions for a whole country, it never turned out well.
The attractiveness of democracy for a country that's never really had it.
Well, freedom, just freedom of speech, freedom of expressing who you are, freedom of being yourself. I think that's the most important.